It's day 2 at Big 12 Media Days, and we have interviews with Texas head coach Steve Sarkisian and Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers. Let's go. It's the #1 college football show. I'm pleased to be joined by Texas Longhorns head coach Steve Sarkisian. Coach, how you doing?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate you taking time to join us here. Coach, I want to start with this. I think you were a missed field goal away from beating Alabama, if not an injury to your starting quarterback away from beating Alabama. You're headed there to Tuscaloosa. You're going back to a place that I'd like to think of as a home for you. How excited are you to bring your team to Tuscaloosa?
Well, it's a great opportunity. I've stated this before and I'll state it again. I've got a great deal of respect for that program. I've got a great deal of respect for Coach Shapen. I know that organization and how well prepared they are week in and week out. I know the job that he does and what he instills in those kids and the quality of players that they have on that team. So we know it's a great challenge. Not a lot of people go into Bryant-Denny Stadium and beat Alabama. So it's a heck of a challenge. But I know our guys will be up for it. Like I said, I thought we played well last year. Unfortunately, we didn't come out on top, and so we'll put our best foot forward this year and see how far we can take it.
Being picked to win the Big 12 conference is not something we see regularly from Texas. And frankly, I've been loud about it all summer. It's the most talented roster in the league. It's one of the most talented rosters in all the sport. What are you doing to try to make sure that talent reaches its potential in 2023?
Well, I think the couple things with the expectations. I think one, that's why you come to Texas, right? Is you want to put yourself on the biggest stage. You want to try to field a team that is competitive week in and week out, regardless of the opponent, regardless of the conference. But inevitably, expectations are just that. We're going to be defined by the way that we play. And what we put on the field, week in and week out. And so we've got to prepare really well. We got to prepare really well physically. We have to prepare really well mentally. We have to prepare for the ups and downs of a season, for the adversity of a season, for the adversity that you face in game. And so those are the things that we're working on. Expectations are just that. The reality of it is, come December, that's what we'll be defined by the way we play.
I know that the offense gets a lot of noise because you're the head coach and you got a great player in Quinn Ewers, but I got to point it out, Coach, you got Quinn over there, right? You got Xavier Worthy over there. I'm looking and I'm going, it doesn't feel like you're going to miss Bijan Robinson. I know I'm probably wrong here, but you also got a really stout backfield. Do you feel like you got a weakness? Do you feel like you have something you have to shore up on that offensive side of the ball?
Well, I think ultimately for us on offense is playing with consistency. We came out of last year and we always try to self-evaluate. And I felt like at times we were a little bit of a one-dimensional team. We ran the ball extremely well. Bijan, Roshan, they were tremendous players for us. So you try to shore up some things. You try to mature. Obviously, we're returning 5 starting offensive linemen. 2 of those were true freshmen a year ago. And those guys now are a year older. They've been in the system. Quinn is going into year 2 in the system. I think his comfort level is at definitely new heights. I think we've balanced out the receiving core. Obviously, we have Xavier Worthy, Jordan Whittington coming back, but with some of the additions, the A.D. Mitchells, we get Isaiah Nair back. We recruited well, and then J.T. Sanders really emerged last year. So hopefully we can continue to build on that and use that experience that we have with the influx of some of the new players to where we are a balanced offense. And I agree with you too, RJ. I do think our backfield, we've got really good players back there, whether it's a Jonathan Brooks, Jaden Blue, Keelan Robinson, the addition of a Cedric Baxter. But ultimately, somebody's going to have to, pardon my analogy, take the bull by the horns and become that lead guy. And that's what training camp's for.
My goodness, when I hear him, you named him like that, I'm just kind of floored because I know that's a dude, that's a dude, that's a dude. They're all dudes. But the guy behind center, Quinn Ewers, he said something I really locked in on, which is I'm getting a PhD in quarterback play from Coach Sarkisian. What does that mean? Translate that for me, because I understand it means very smart. However, for him, going from year 1 to year 2, where he was essentially a true freshman playing quarterback, what does that look like on the field?
Well, I think one thing for us that's important of note, we run an NFL system, and everything we do now is the same stuff I was running with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and Mohamed Sanu in Atlanta for 2 years. And so the reality of it is there's a lot of nuances to what we do. And it's one thing just to run plays. It's another to know the intricacies of those plays and to how they fit against specific defenses and anticipating where that ball should go. And I think naturally, if you put in the time like Quinn is doing right now, you see the steps that get made when you go into year 2 in our system. And he wasn't fortunate enough to take a year to watch somebody else run what we do. He kind of got thrown into the fire. And there were some ups and there were some downs. But to his credit, I think we learned a lot about his resolve. I think we learned a lot about his leadership, his willingness to stand there in the fire. Inevitably, I think that's somebody that our players want to rally behind. But also, I think in his mind, man, when I get this system down, which is where he's at now, we've got a chance to do something really special offensively, and he's done that. He's put in a lot of work, and I'm very proud of what he's been able to do to put himself in this position.
Defensively, I don't think you can do better than asking a guy like Jalen Ford to lead your unit, but he emerged in a huge way for me last year. I knew he was a good player. He turned out to be a great player in 2022. What are you looking for from him and the rest of that unit as you go into 2023?
Yeah, I was proud of those guys. I was proud of our defensive staff. I was proud of the players for the leaps and bounds they made from year 1 to year 2. We played a more consistent brand of football. I thought we played aggressive. We played tough. We affected the other team's quarterback. Naturally, in the game of football, we've got to continue to find ways to create turnovers. And so that's been a big point of emphasis of ours. We've got to continue to find a way not to just get 3rd down stops, but 4th down stops. That's another area for improvement for us. But Jalen Ford is definitely our catalyst. He's a leader. Anytime you have a guy coming back with the type of production that he had, the leadership that he has, the way he represents the University of Texas, that's a great starting point. But he's surrounded by a bunch of really good players. He's surrounded by a coaching staff on our defensive side of the ball that's been the same now for 3 straight years. So there's great continuity there as well. So we're excited about how far these guys can take it. And if we can continue that incremental growth that we saw from year 1 to year 2, and then do that from year 2 to year 3, I think they're poised for a great season.
One of the things you said earlier is about the expectations and why you come to the University of Texas to play football. And I want to key in on that for you personally, because it feels like this is a tremendously important year. Your last year in the Big 12, you're headed to a new conference in the SEC. I think it's the best football conference in the country. And you also have to deal with, another 5-star quarterback that's waiting in the wings in one Arch Manning. How are you coping with all of these different ways in which you, the head coach at the University of Texas, are being pulled?
Man, I love it. I love every day, and you kind of made me light up with that, because what an awesome opportunity. I wake up every morning. I'm the head coach at the University of Texas. I'm humbled. I'm honored. I think about Mac Brown. I think about Darrell Royal. I think about national championships. I think about Heisman Trophy winners. I think about the great players. And I think that what we're doing right now, what we're building, it's been a process, no question about that. But I think we are in position to go and do great things. And I think our players recognize it. Our staff recognize it. I haven't been shy to say, I feel like this team's on a mission. They've been laser focused on what they want to go accomplish this year, which is win a Big 12 championship. We've got to go do that on the field come the fall. But we've been doing the necessary things, and our players deserve a lot of credit for that, because they have committed themselves to this process better than we have even the previous 2 years. And I think that's why they feel very comfortable and confident as well that we can go accomplish our goal, which is try to go win a championship this fall.
Coach Sark, I appreciate you taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show, and good luck in 2023, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
I'm pleased to be joined by Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers. Quinn, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm good, sir. I'm excited to talk with you. I want to get started this way. How excited are you to get another bite at Alabama this year in Tuscaloosa after how you played against them last year?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a great atmosphere, playing in Tuscaloosa. I was recruited by Coach Sark up there, so I was able to go up there as a recruit, and I kind of saw the atmosphere and kind of what it's like, and I couldn't be more excited to go up there and play those guys again. Like I said, it's going to be so much fun, a great environment. I know this team's fired up about it, but at the end of the day, we just want to go 1-0. So we're starting with Rice, and then obviously we're humans. It's human nature to kind of think past, or not think past, but see who we have next after the Rice Owls. But yeah, we're fired up. We're ready to roll.
Well, I mean, hey, look, since we're going to talk about Rice for just a second, number one, that game's on Fox, so I'm going to be watching it. Number two, do you think you're going to get towed this year?
Man, I sure hope not. I figured out, that parking lot's for the suite holders, so it's probably good I don't park in there anymore. How about that? That was a pretty fun occurrence. Well,
I asked because, A, I did not expect to see that the starting quarterback for University of Texas gets his truck towed. On the other hand, though, it is kind of a marker in how big an atmosphere you and that Longhorn program have created. A lot of people are invested. You're picked to finish first in the Big 12, and frankly, I think y'all are the most talented roster in this league. Saying you want to go 1-1 is one thing, but when you look across the board at what you got on offense, you got to feel excited about it, yeah?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we're all fired up. I got all 5 starters at O-line coming back, which I couldn't be more happy about. Those guys just growing together. It's awesome to see that. I mean, the way this team has grown throughout this offseason has just been, really fun to kind of see. Sometimes I kind of sit back and kind of just see what's going on with them, and it's so cool to see. Even the receiver room, obviously we got a good ad with A.D. Mitchell and with some younger guys coming in, and we hired a new coach at that position, which has been great. He comes from the NFL, so those guys are really buying in on what he's installing in those young guys, and even the older guys like Jordan Whittington. But like I said, the way this team has grown, it's been really cool to see.
It sounds like what you really want to do is get out there and play some football. And I'm curious to see how you have progressed and how much more comfortable and slowed down and just taking it all in that you are, because it feels like this year could be a lot of fun for you, given you got 1 year in the system, you understand what Coach Sark wants from you, and you know who you're throwing to. Yeah,
100%. I mean, throughout this spring, starting in the winter, through the winter, the spring, and this past summer, my comfort level has gone through the roof. I'm a whole lot more confident in the offense. Everything is slowing down. Last year about this time during our PRPs, I mean, I'm stepping up to the line or whatever. Like, God, what's the play again? Like, I just had so much going on, and then I didn't have time to, look at the front and then see what the defense is running. I'm just kind of playing off instinct throughout fall camp and whatnot. But like you said, I'm just so much more comfortable. I have time to kind of, see what the defense is doing, communicate to the O-line, communicate to the receivers, tell the running back, hey, remind him what he's got, and then see the play clock, and then I'm ready to snap the ball. I mean, the year 2 so far has been a big jump for me.
One of the things that you had said that I'd seen written was you felt like you were getting a PhD in quarterback play from Coach Sarkisian. Can you elaborate on what you mean when you say that?
Yeah, obviously he played the position that I played at a high level over at BYU, so he knows what it looks like. He's been there, he's done that. He's won some big games, and obviously he's won a national championship over at Alabama. So having him as kind of that guy to lean on and kind of have as a coach in that quarterback room with us. I mean, he has the answers. He has the answers to the test. And having a guy like that who's produced the quarterbacks that he's produced, obviously that's not a coincidence at all. He's one of the best guys to lean on, and quarterback wise, in the nation for sure.
You also get to share those notes with a couple of really talented guys in that quarterback room, one being Malik Murphy, the other being Arch Manning. What has the camaraderie been like in the quarterback room?
Yeah, it's really cool to see the way that we interact as a quarterback room, just because how close we are together. I mean, nobody in that room is trying to find ways around the other. I mean, we're all working towards a common goal together. But obviously only one quarterback can play, which is why it's one of the most important positions in all of sports. But like I said, those are like my best friends in that room. We have a blast together. We do quarterback dinners together. We have so much fun together. Just, not even in the quarterback room, like outside the quarterback room, which is rare, and it's cool to see, a group of guys like that when we're all competing against each other.
How excited are you to finish this era of Texas football in the Big 12 and, frankly, to begin a new one in the SEC in 2024?
Yeah, this is our last year in the Big 12. I think our university has made great decisions. Obviously, for most of the guys who started here in the Big 12, I know it's going to be maybe a little tough leaving, but at the end of the day, we trust our administration and what they do, and we couldn't be more excited for what we're doing. But at the end of the day, we're really focused on this last year in the Big 12. Not really looking past that as a locker room for sure.
I realized last year you had Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson in the backfield. One of those guys, having been a former quarterback even at Texas, probably helped your confidence, especially in year one. But now you got a really talented backfield, but you're looking for somebody to take over that as that lead dog. What have you seen from those running backs in that room that gives you some hope for the future?
Yeah, obviously they know what, Bijan and Roschon, what they did to be the players that they were. And like you said, that's such a talented room. We always have depth at running back, which is amazing. I mean, all those guys are great pass catchers and great running backs. They have great vision. And I'm excited. I think they're all going to be very useful for this team. We have a lot of depth. I mean, we added, Savion Red to that mix. He moved from receiver to running back, and we got Cedric Baxter in the backfield as well. Keelan Robinson, Jaden Blue, Jordan Brooks. I mean, all those guys are very capable of playing.
Texas being picked to finish atop the Big 12 is not a common occurrence. I mentioned over and over again how talented you guys are from a roster standpoint. How is that pressure being felt at the University of Texas football program?
Yeah, obviously that's great that people see our talent, but it's a whole lot more than talent, because there's been a whole bunch of talented teams at the University of Texas that haven't really panned out to what they're supposed to be. So we're really trying to connect and just stabilize our culture and what we believe in, and we have a lot of small sayings that kind of make us stand together, and I couldn't be more proud of the way that our team is kind of approaching this whole ideal of this season, but we really trying to focus on the opinions inside our building. We try to kind of stay out of the outside voices that kind of leak through. But obviously, like I said, we're humans. We have social media. We hear what's going on. But there's also people saying that, maybe we shouldn't, be in the mix for all this stuff. So, it goes both ways. So we really just need to focus on our opinions inside the facility.
My last one for you, Quinn. You told me that there are a lot of little phrases and sayings that you have inside of that room that seem to buoy you all. Can you give me one of those and tell me why it's important to you?
Yeah, I'll give you one. We came up with this one as kind of like a leadership council. It was Jordan Whittington who actually kind of brought it up. It's the wall is blue. It could be white or green or anything, but at that point in time, everyone on the team, the wall is blue. But you can think it otherwise. But at that time, you got to trust what he says, and you got to, because we're all working towards a common goal. If everyone works towards that common goal, it usually works out.
I do. Belief in one another and belief in your leaders. Quinn Ewers, thank you so much for joining us here on the #1 college football show. Good luck in 2023, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I'm pleased to be joined by TCU head coach Sonny Dykes. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, sir. Are you swagging around like the man who played in the national championship game last year? Because you should be.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you saw the score of that game. that didn't go the way we wanted it to. So that's good, though. I mean, that's humbling. It's good for you. It keeps you grounded and makes you understand you got a long way to go to get where you want to go and be ultimately. But yeah, it was a fun year. It was a great way to start our tenure at TCU, and I think we saw that kind of promise and potential in the program, and that's why we chose to come to Fort Worth and come to TCU, is because we felt like we could play in those big games, the Big 12 championship and the Fiesta Bowl and the national championship game, and but at the same time we got a long way to go, and this year's team is completely different than last year's, and we got some big challenges in front of us, but I think we all have that feeling in the back of our mind, hey, look, we can get there, and we got a chance to do this.
I'm curious, Coach, because there's one way of looking at that, which is to score that national championship game. Another one is you won the Fiesta Bowl against an undefeated Big Ten champion, Michigan, and you're going into a season in which it feels like people are expecting Texas Christian to take over the mantle of being the dominant team in the Big 12. How are you responding? How is your team responding to those waves of emotion?
Yeah, the thing that we try to do, honestly, and we did it last year. We were picked, I think, 7th or 8th, in the preseason poll last year, and ended up in the Big 12 championship game, and like I said, in the playoff and the national championship. But this year is kind of the same thing. I mean, I think we're picked 5th, if I'm not mistaken, and so our guys don't pay much attention to that. I think if we were picked 1st, they would have the same kind of mentality that we had last year, pick 7th. And it's about us, and it's just about us getting better. And, the season is a marathon. I mean, it really is. It's a grind. You got to play well week in, week out. It's a long season, and our guys understand that. And it's, you're not going to win a national championship in week 1 or week 2. And you've got to have a great mentality. You got to stay focused. You got to not get too high. You got to not get too low. You just have to weather the storm in so many ways, and the season can be a tough storm. And as you said, I mean, the Big 12 is really good, top to bottom. There's a lot of really good football teams, really talented football teams. We're undergoing a lot of changes, obviously, with Oklahoma and Texas leaving after this season, and 4 new members coming in this season. So it's going to be a really interesting league. Last year, one of the great things about the Big 12 was we got to play everybody. We played the 9 other teams in the league, and this year is going to be a little bit different with those teams being here, and Oklahoma and Texas still being here, and the 4 coming in. So your schedule is going to be really important this year, and who you play and when you play them, and all those things I think contribute to to whoever's going to win the league. And that was the cool thing about last year was you played everybody. Everybody played the same schedule, and this year it's not going to be the case.
Well, y'all demonstrated some heart in ways that other teams just don't get to demonstrate or don't rise to the challenge last year. I remember the fire drill you got to run, get the field goal unit on against Baylor being one of those that just seared into my brain. So lots of things that you learn from your team and how they respond to pressure. But I've been taken aback by seeing I Am the Program across some of the kids' shirts. And I wanted to ask, was that your idea, and how have they internalized that idea that what they do, how they act is the program?
Yeah, really from our first meeting with our players, we talked about that. I mean, look, we feel like we have the best strength and conditioning staff in college football. I think Kaz Kazadi and his group are truly elite. Strength coaches are about getting guys bigger, faster, stronger, and that's probably 10% of what Kaz does. I mean, he does so much more with our players, builds culture, we're big into injury prevention and nutrition and recovery. Every little thing that we can squeeze out of strength and conditioning, we try to squeeze it out of it. As you said, I mean, that's something that we try to teach personal accountability every single day, and understanding that if you want to have a great football team, then you have to make sacrifices, and understanding that what you do impacts not only you, but the other 124 players in our program. And those guys, I think, understanding that, believing that, buying into that philosophy that, look, your work is only beginning when you leave the building. The guys come and they practice and they lift and they go to meetings and they do all those things, but then what they do when they leave our building is just as important as what they do when they're in there, and whether that's recovery or rest or making good decisions off the field and just doing things that they're supposed to do to make them good teammates. And our team last year really understood that. Those guys bought into that philosophy, and hopefully this year's team will do the same thing. And if we do, we feel like we have enough pieces to be able to have a good football team again, and hopefully get on that same kind of run and look up and be in the mix when it's all said and done.
You mentioned the schedule last year and being able to play everybody in the Big 12, but you also had a game against Colorado last year at Folsom. This year, you get that game at your house with Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, coach of Colorado. It's a big game on the schedule for me. It's a big game on the schedule for Fox. Are you and your kids looking forward to playing in that game in particular?
Yeah, the one thing we try to talk about is kind of like I said earlier, look, understanding that every game is important. I mean, and that's what makes college football so cool and so unique is, if you go and you don't play well against Colorado, you lose that game. Well, that game is going to matter at the end of the season, when you're sitting there hoping to get in the playoff. And that's what makes football so unique, and college football in particular, is every single game matters. And you have to have the same kind of approach and mentality and preparation week in and week out. Our guys will be excited to play just because, it's the big noon kickoff at Fox. I was watching the All-Star game last night with my son, who's 6 years old, and we saw the promo for Colorado TCU, and so a lot of other people saw it. So there's going to be a lot of attention on that game, but our guys know that. Look, I mean, it's just the beginning of the season, and as I said earlier, I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So we're going to have to prepare well and play well to have a chance to beat those guys, and that's really what our program's all about. I mean, that was what I was so proud of last year is we played 15 games and we played really, really good in 14 of those games, and didn't play well in the last one. And but you've got to play well. I mean, you have to play well week in and week out, or we don't have the kind of team that can show up and not play well and win. And so that's our guys understand that, and so we got to be prepared and play consistent football, for the duration of the season.
Sticking with this idea of the schedule and opponents, Coach, one of my favorite memories in the offseason is seeing Senator Lois Cokhurst say, hey, look, Texas, you got a losing record against TCU. It seems like y'all can't get it done when you're trying to get it done. That win you had on the 40 acres last year, I thought was such a big deal. It was a signature win, not just for you, but for many TCU fans who have been waiting for that sort of an outburst from their program at that place. Going into this season, do you feel some kind of way about Texas bolted for the SEC, or are you just going, okay, good riddance, we can beat you anyway?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm responsible for one of those wins that TCU's had against Texas, and but they've had a bunch here recently, and like I said, a lot of that happened before I was here, and that's Coach Patterson's credit and really our players' credit. I think that TCU for years has been a blue-collar program. We want to continue to be a blue-collar program. I mean, our program's different. I mean, we try to be more steak and less sizzle, and just try to work hard every day and understand that, we're not going to get a lot of hype, and that's okay. And I think our players kind of enjoy that role as an underdog. And, as we said earlier, I mean, look, we're picked in the middle of the pack in the league this year after coming off of playing in the national championship last year. So, we're a team that has to prove themselves week in, week out. We don't mind that role. I think our guys are actually excited about it. The one thing I do think that was different about that win last year, though, going to Austin was, we won a game in a different way. We played great defense in the first half. We shut Texas out in the first half. The score was 3-0 at halftime. I don't think anybody saw that kind of game, and I think that proved to us that we could win games when our offense didn't play particularly well, and we could figure out ways to win. And it wasn't always going to be 45-42. That game, ended up being 17-10 or whatever it was. And so there wasn't a whole lot of scoring in that thing. And, you got to win games different ways. And your offense has to rise to the occasion some games like we did against Michigan, and your defense has to rise to the occasion and help you win like we did against Texas. And if you go back and you look at our defense, man, there were so many games last year where those guys got critical stops at the end of a game, to either hold on to a win or get the ball back to the offense and provide an opportunity for them to go down and win. And, we don't have that great drive and that field goal against Baylor if our defense doesn't get that stop late in the fourth quarter that they got. We held them to a 3-and-out there and got good field position, and were able to drive it down and kick a game-winning field goal. So that's what you want. You want to be able to win games in different ways and understand that you can do it on special teams, you can do it on offense, and you can do it on defense.
My last one for you, Coach. You had a lot of new additions to that 2022 team that helped you win. This year, you got several new additions, 3 from Alabama, 1 in Kendall Browse coming from Arkansas. But I think the dude that I'm most intrigued by is a guy that's been on your roster, at least for the last year, in Chandler Morris. What have you seen from him growing over the last year, and what do you expect from him going into 2023?
Yeah, I think last year, Chandler won the job, going into the season last year and started against Colorado, was injured in the third quarter, and then Max came in and had a tremendous season and, all the way to Heisman Trophy finalist. So, I think the great thing about Chandler, he had an opportunity to watch Max, and he had an opportunity to learn from him. And, Chandler's one of those guys, he's crazy competitive, he's an excitable guy, he loves big plays. And I think he got to see Max be really steady last year, and just not beat us. And Max did a tremendous job of making plays in critical situations. But what he did probably as well as anything is he gave us a chance to win every Saturday. He didn't throw interceptions. He didn't make bad decisions. He didn't try to do too much. He let the game come to him. And I think in a lot of ways Chandler was able to see that. And I think that's going to make him a lot better quarterback because, look, we've got good players. I mean, we have a good supporting cast around Chandler. And he needs to understand, look, I don't have to go out there and play perfect. I don't have to make all these crazy plays. I just got to go execute at a high level, take care of the football, distribute the ball to the right guys and let them go do what they can do. And I think he's starting to understand that. He's looked really good. He looked really good this spring. I think he's looked good in the offseason. I think he's got a lot of comfort in what we're doing offensively. So I'm fired up. I think he's going to have a great year. And, I think that year last year, though, where he was able to sit back and watch Max have that special year, taught him a lot about playing that position.
It's a simple game when I hear you talk about it, Coach. That's one of the reasons I look forward to talking to you each and every Big 12 Media Days. Thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much. And excited about our relationship with Fox. I mean, you guys have been awesome and looking forward to seeing you all that week at Colorado.
I'm pleased to be joined by Texas Christian defensive back Bud Clark. Bud, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother. I'm excited to talk with you about what Texas Christian has in store for 2023 because, 2022 went about as well as it could have. Came up 1 game short, but going into this 2023 season, have you sensed a mood change around the program, around the university since y'all finished in the national championship game?
Oh, yeah, for sure. The sense of urgency around everywhere has been picked up tremendously, really forward, really.
And in picking up that tremendous urgency, where have you seen it come up most? In spring camp and now getting ready for fall camp?
Being able to, when we getting ready for fall camp, it's pretty much just intensity everywhere. So seeing that is building us pretty much.
Coach Gillespie is a very intense dude, right? He's also got tremendously strong faith. What was it about last year that you saw him implementing that led to your success in 2022 and something you hope to sustain in 2023?
Coach Gillespie stays calm. He stays very calm. He's all rowdy, turned up, but he's very calm about it. And that keeps us calm. So if he's calm, we see him calm, we stay calm.
So y'all added a number of great players through the transfer portal. On the offensive side, I got to mention Trey Sanders, JoJo Earl, those kinds of dudes. Have you seen how their talent level has raised the level of talent, across the board for y'all?
Oh, yeah. They raised their talent and our talent pretty much. They bring that leadership from different places. So, they know what it takes to win, too, because they've been in winning programs. So, being able to have them there is a very much help.
I understand that the national championship game is one that you're very proud of, but also perhaps not as proud of your performance in it. What did you learn about you and the program, frankly, in what did you need to do to close the gap between yourself and national champion Georgia Bulldogs?
Just pretty much, just going out there and fighting, just being able to be there, be like we've been there before, having a sense of urgency of that we've been there, being able to fight along with the players, so it's pretty cool.
The joke on the offensive side of the ball is that the second best quarterback ended up as a Heisman finalist. So the first string quarterback ought to be pretty good. I'm saying that as Chandler Morris won the job last year. got injured and then lost the job to Max Duggan, who had an outstanding season. So I'm setting that up to say, what about Chandler Morris do you think makes him such a great quarterback?
You know, we just lost Max. You know, you can't have no dog. Like, you got to have a dog at quarterback, and I feel like we got us a dog at quarterback for sure.
Well, in having that dog quarterback, I got to ask, how many TDs have you thrown on you in practice?
Okay, he threw a couple. You know, I ain't gonna say too many, but he's throwing some, dropped some bombs on me.
Well, my last one for you, Bud. What is it that you, particularly personally, want to do better in 2023 that you didn't do in 2022?
Really just be a leader. Like, you know, I'm a very loud person, but I don't do as much, you know, when it comes to my team. You know, like, I'm always a person to come to, you know, talk to, but I just wasn't a vocal presence. I feel like I'm gonna be a vocal presence this year.
Well, it's you they brought the media days, and it's you that they got on the back end of that defense. So, you know what I mean? You ain't got no choice at this point. Bud Clark, thanks so much for joining us here on the #1 college football show.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I'm pleased to be joined by Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great, man. Fired up.
So, Coach, I want to get started with, you got any more of those Tyree Wilsons lying around somewhere in Lubbock?
Well, we do have somebody that looks a lot like him, Miles Cole, that's going to start at that position. He's 6'5.5", 280 pounds. He actually has longer arms than Tyree Wilson. So he's got a chance to be really special. He's just got to continue to grow. Played really great against Ole Miss in the bowl game. And so we'll see. But Tyree was really special for us.
Coach, I'm checking my notes here to make sure I got this right. So in the preseason poll, media got the Red Raiders finished behind Oklahoma, who they whooped, and then behind Texas, who they whooped. So I got to ask, Coach, y'all taking that just a little bit personally?
Yeah, we will. You know, there's no doubt. It's one of those deals that I always try to find ways to motivate and fuel the fire. You always got to go back and think through, at the end of the day, you got to be the best version of yourselves, and it's all about Texas Tech. But you're also dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds. I mean, whatever way you can put a little extra fire underneath them, it always helps. And so we do feel we've got 18 starters coming back from that bowl game, and we feel like we're a good football team. And so it's going to be settled on the field, and we'll be ready to go when we have the opportunity to play those guys.
One of the storylines that I've been most impressed with is just how thick through the middle this conference has gotten. I mean, like the ribs are sticking to them, right? So the question I have for you is, when you look at Texas Christian and what they were in 2021, 5-7, and what they were in 2022, national title runner-up, do y'all look over there and say, well, hell, we ain't that much different from Texas Christian. Why not us?
Yeah, you know, I thought it was really big for the Big 12 that TCU went out and beat Michigan. You know, I know it wasn't what they wanted in the championship game, but when you have the opportunity to play in the Final Four, it's good for the conference. And it's one of those deals that, you know, if you can win the conference or you can play in the conference game, you've got an opportunity to play in some big games after that. And then 2024, you know, the playoffs are going to expand. So you put yourself in good positions to be a part of that. And so we do. I mean, we always look, of course, it's coach speak. You got to go game by game. But at the end of the year, we want to be playing in some really important games. We want to be back in this building. And so we do look at it as why not us. And that also, we use that a lot to fuel the fire.
One of the drawbacks of last year, as good as y'all were, was the revolving door at quarterback due to injuries and play. Yeah. This year, it feels like Tyler Shough's going to be your guy going into week 1. How much more confident do you feel about that position in 2023?
Well, you know, I didn't even realize it until Tyler said it to me going into offseason, but this is going to be the first time he's been in an offense in college to where he has the same coordinator for the second year. And so when you have a kid that's so dedicated to the game, that wants to get better every single day, that makes a huge difference. You could see it in spring ball, how good he was really grasping the offense. So it's a huge part. He's a huge leader. He's a great talent. And, he believes in what we're doing. The really good thing about us is we were able to keep Baron Morton, who is just a great young talent, and so, again, we feel really good about our room. I've said it a lot. I don't think our room gets talked about enough. My guys have won Big 12 games. And not a lot of other teams can say their number 2 has won a Big 12 game. And so I think it's really important that we have depth in that room and we have a lot of talent in that room. But I'm proud of Tyler. I'm excited to see what he's going to do this year.
Coach, can you show off your jacket for us just a little bit?
Yeah,
hey!
A little shout out to Mike Leach today. Just the tip of the hat, to the Pirate. I'm a Texas high school coach, and the influence that he had in this state, I think a lot of coaches think that they've influenced football, some have, but for the most part, it's hard to change the game. And Mike Leach changed the game, not only in the state of Texas, but in college football. And he means a lot to Texas Tech. And so out of respect for him, I wanted to make sure I had a little tip of the cap to the Pirate today.
It's a class act, Coach. It's a class move from you. And I can't wait to see what happens because that man needs to be in the College Football Hall of Fame. I think all of us can agree on that. And that's really cool to see.
Yes, sir.
Coach, we got a little
Yes,
segment that we do on the #1 college football show called Diamond in the Rough, where I usually identify an assistant that I really love. And I thought maybe you might get upset with me if we make one about Zach Kitley here, because I think that is one of the next up-and-coming play callers in this sport. How excited are you to have him back again and really in a position to take this conference to the next level?
So excited. I tell everybody he's as smart a football coach as I've ever been around in my life. He's a coach's kid, so that definitely helps because he's grown up understanding, the ebb and flow of this business and wins and losses. He's a Red Raider, and so that's even more important that we win to him. That was a big part of him coming back. And I'm telling you, man, he gets it. He gets how we want to play the game. He's really adapted to my aggressiveness on 4th down because that really changes how an offensive coordinator is going to call the game at different parts of the game. And so, he's a guy that he's very unselfish. He has a plan. He has a scheme. This is what we want to do. But he's also a guy that understands, hey, ever how we need to win the game, that's how we're going to do it. And so he can adapt. And, man, he just relates to the players and the quarterbacks. And he is, man, you said it perfectly. He's one of the young talents he's going to be a head coach someday. I hope I get him a few years before he does that, but I want him to be a head coach because I know at some point that's what he wants to do.
Texas Tech head coach Joey McGuire, thanks so much for joining us here on the #1 college football show.
You bet, man. Thanks for having me. Wreck 'em.
I'm pleased to be joined by Texas Tech quarterback Tyler Shough. Tyler, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's good to be here.
So I've already circled a game on your non-conference schedule on my schedule because it occurs to me that when Oregon comes to Lubbock, you will be playing against a team that you led to the Fiesta Bowl not 3 years ago. So how excited are you to play in that game on Fox?
Man, it's going to be a lot of fun. My fiance is from there. She's from Eugene, Oregon. I got a lot of good memories from there, a lot of great people, great experiences. The staff's different. A lot of guys have rotated out, but I still got some teammates. It's going to be great to see them. It's going to be a great environment. But we still got Wyoming to play first, but there's definitely going to be a lot of fun, a lot of emotion coming back to that game.
Coach McGuire was kind enough to inform me that you told him, hey, Coach, this is going to be the first time that I played in the same system in back-to-back years, and just what a boon that's going to be for you. How excited are you to know what you are doing going into 2023?
Yeah, it's big time. For me, it's just I have that so much more confidence, leading the wide receiver group. Everyone has that more experience with the offense. We're kind of firing on all cylinders right now. We know what we think. We know what we think. There's no hesitation. There's no kind of growth period. So we're really kind of coming back, expanding on what we did, finding new ways to get to new things, creating some new stuff. So I think you're going to see a lot more explosive plays. You're going to see a lot more consistency. And, with our O-line coming back and some new guys, I think that's going to be a huge build for us.
I would be remiss if I didn't ask you, how's the rehab process with your shoulder? How is your shoulder feeling?
Oh, it's great. Last year, obviously, it was unfortunate. I broke my collarbone. Got surgery on it, was out the 8 weeks, and I'm fully healthy. I played in those last 4 games. I was kind of running more and playing like I didn't even have it at all. So, I didn't feel it at all. Especially going into this year, I haven't felt better in my entire life right now, physically. It's unfortunate, but, it's a bone and it heals. I haven't had any other injuries, in the history of my whole career. So I had a little bit of bad luck with that, but, looking back, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. Just the opportunities that we have ahead of us and, me being in the offense for a second year, having that experience, and then with the culture that we have, it's pretty unprecedented, and I've never seen anything like it. So the shoulder's not a problem, and we're just trying to stay healthy, the whole team. If we can stay healthy, I think we can have a really good year.
The healthiest you have been in your entire career, going into a season where I expect Texas Tech to be loaded for bear. Hell, I'm looking forward to 2023. Texas Tech quarterback Tyler Shough, thanks so much for joining us here on the #1 college football show.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
I'm pleased to be joined by Baylor head coach Dave Aranda. Coach, how you doing?
Doing great. I'm happy to be with you.
I appreciate you taking time, Coach. I wanted to start with this. For the second spring in a row, you've decided to name Blake Shapen as your starting quarterback. He's proven over and over again that he's the guy that needs to be leading you from behind center. But what have you seen him improve upon most from year, let's say 2021 comes on in a big way in that Big 12 championship game, to this year, heading into 2023?
No, I appreciate that. There's been growth in his consistency. I think where some of the struggles were a year ago would be if things were good, it was good. Once there was difficulty or adversity or obstacles, it could get to, oh, geez, here we go. And I think a lot of that came from Blake in his career. Didn't have a bunch of difficulties, didn't have a bunch of adversity. I think was one of the better players at his school and better players in the state, and the sports he played. He really kind of succeeded greatly with it. And so I think and so the adversity was one thing, but then I also think the haters probably is quite another's. So like with the adversity comes the hate or the criticism and all of it. And so I think for him to, there's a great, T.S. Eliot is one of my favorite poets, and there's a line that he has where he says, "Teach us to care and not to care. Teach us to sit still." And so I think like that's I don't know. That's the goal. And so to care would be, hey, what are the things that I'm not doing good? Where can I improve? Like what's the, but then to not to care is, hey, all of this hate mail's coming my way, all of these things. And so like you want to take what's instructive about the criticism, and then you want to leave the emotions and all the other stuff out of it. And at the end result, what you want to do is sit still, like within that storm, right? Or within that hurricane, to be the eye of the hurricane, to be right in the middle, right? That's not moved, that's always centered and always at peace. And I think, to see our young people kind of go through that, and Blake's a great example of it. You want to see him, I want to see him successful, man, And so I think with the consistency, you go back to, the 2 years ago, we had a Big 12 championship here where it's harder to find a more consistent quarterback. And then to go to last year and the struggles of all of it, there's almost like there's a first naivete, and then there's the second naivete where like you didn't know that you didn't know. But now that you know, there's so much strength that comes with that. And there's, when the adversity comes, it's like, oh, here you are, my friend. It's good to see you. All right, why don't you just sit right here? I got you, And so I think that's just a way different thing than kind of running away from it, or trying to shy away or hide out from it. And so I think that's one of the beautiful things about sport, man, is that it can take us to those places and those areas of growth, you know? So I think the consistency would be one thing, because we had scrimmages and practices where maybe didn't start out great, but finished way strong, you know? And so I think that's a big growth point for Blake, you know? And the second area of improvement would be leadership. I just feel like, you know, his ability to get his eyes off of him and get his eyes looking out and seeing things and seeing the reality of things. And if someone's doing the right thing, to put them up. If someone's not doing the right thing, try to call them up, get them up to the standard. And I think to be that dude, when you're doing that, you know, you have to live like that. And I think he's doing all those things. So way excited, man. I'm you know, way invested in the team and all of it, but especially with Blake, because I think we all go through what he's gone through, maybe not as publicly as him, but to see him kind of fight for it and to not run away from nothing is way cool.
I hear experience, I hear balance, I hear an appropriate, not just distance, but understanding of how difficult the game is and how your best doesn't always mean winning, right? Although we would like it to be winning. And I also see a program that is constantly in flux, right? Because you've had to add new players and players decide to go into the portal, those sorts of things. And I've also seen you return back to some of the things that work, right? Like there's you, and then there are people that you trust. One of those people I'm just going to point out being Matt Powledge, a man you brought in to run your defense this year, who had coached with you before at Baylor and has done a remarkable job at Oregon most recently, and then ULL, I believe, ULM in there, and then I'm familiar with Sam Houston State. What do you think bringing in an experienced man who understands the balance and the real tenacious spirit that your defense has is going to do for your Baylor program in 2023?
No, appreciate that. Yeah, Matt brings great character, great humility, is a learner and not a knower, you know. In the times that, a lot of this since January for me and Matt has been, hey, dude, these are like this is what's worked for me. These are my philosophies. These are things I think of, low red zone or coming out or, 3rd and 3 to 5 or 3rd and 13 plus. And these are where I've made mistakes. This is camp. This is scrimmage days. This is, the game week. So like philosophies, and we just kind of go through, this is a call sheet, how I organize it. And so I just wanted to be able to go and, to be honest, I haven't done that before. And, maybe I should have done that previously. I just didn't do that before. It's just really easy to do it with Matt. I think there's such a humbleness about him and just wanting to learn and wanting to get better. And so I just think that, he's destined for great things, man. I believe whatever you put out kind of comes back to you. And I just think he continually puts good things out, treats people right, and does all the, works hard. And I'm a fan of his. I know that our players see the real in him. It's funny. I was talking. My oldest girl, big Harry Potter fan. We would watch Harry Potter during the summers. This summer I brought it up because we really had not been. She's going away to college. She's going to Wisconsin, and so this first summer really, they'd have the Harry Potter marathons, and we usually be somewhere where there's water and stuff. And she'd be inside with the AC, and I would be too. And we'd be watching the Harry Potter, marathon or whatever. And so one of the things in Harry Potter, I think it was the first one, the Sorcerer's Stone, or is it the Philosopher's Stone or Sorcerer's Stone?
Sorcerer's Stone.
Philosopher's Stone, I think. Okay, and so Harry is going to Hogwarts, and it's, he's leaving for the first time, and he's trying to find, on his deal, it goes, hey, there's, I think it's platform 9 3/4. And he's trying to find it. And there's a platform 9, and then there's a platform 10 and 11. And he's at London Crossing. He's like, where is this this doesn't exist. What is going on, you know? And eventually he sees some folks that are going to Hogwarts too, and they run into a wall, and it's the magic, you know, kind of portal that gets them to the magic space of Hogwarts. And I think that's just so true. I think it's like the in-between, right, is so, that's the magic. That's where the, you know, we can, one of the things that's worrisome about football is that we know when our games are going to be. And so that we can all try to do everything we can to be at our best for that game. Where to win those games, you have to be your best in all the time, in the in-between, because it gets exposed with pressure and it gets exposed with competitiveness and everything. And so the value of the in-between, to be real and to not be putting on a mask and not trying to play a role and not trying to be something that you ain't, I think is just way strong. And I think Powell does a great job of that, you know, and he doesn't get in his own way. And I know the players see that. And so excited to see the fruits of all of it, man. I'm really happy with where it's at right now.
I recall that's something that you kind of struggle with yourself at Baylor, because you would be telling the kids what you think and why you believe it. And they would be kind of looking at you like, is this guy for real? Does he really just go around telling us this over and over again? It's not like any other football coach I think many of them have ever been around. And I like to say there's no football coach in America that is like you. So for you to acknowledge that the players are seeing the real in a man that you trust and a man that you need them to trust, I think bodes well for you. And frankly, I'm looking at that across the board for you. On your offensive line in particular, you lost a lot. 3 super seniors, I believe, and 1 4-year starter. And yet you got a couple of kiddos coming in from BYU you like, and it feels like Coach Mateos has a unit out there that can go out and, if not win football games, win a Big 12 championship. How confident are you about the offensive line in particular going into 2023?
I feel good. Yeah, I appreciate the question. You know, I thought spring was from the beginning to the end was like a ferocity and single focus and a hunger. That might be the best word, a hunger, all the way through. And it was way cool to see. I think in the beginning, there was some spottiness, just new guys all trying to work together. By the last 2.5 weeks, like, was a strength, you know? And so really looking for fall camp to kind of continue down that path. And I think, you know, we've got really 2 offensive line coaches, and Eric's a fine one and one of the best in the country, I believe. And then, you know, Coach Grimes is our coordinator and is a well-accomplished O-line coach himself. And so I think all the stuff is kind of geared for those guys, whereas I think in other spots maybe it's not that way. And then I think the style of offense that we have, the wide zone, where they're running off the football. And if a guy's there, I'm gonna run him out. If he crosses my face, I'm gonna post him and let him come to the next guy inside of me. So there's not a lot of, hey, we're doubling this? Is it a thick? Am I staying on the double? Or we're doubling this guy. Hey, I got to get going because this guy's fast. I got to do a thin and come off quick. There isn't that. There's like, I'm running off, you know? Mm-hmm. So it allows, there's a simplicity and then the ability to play fast, which I think helps in the growth of just young players or new players. And so I feel good about it. I think the spring was a good kind of view of what's possible.
I'm excited to see what Baylor football looks like and goes and achieves in 2023. Coach Aranda, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
No, appreciate you. Well, thank you.
I'm pleased to be joined by Baylor quarterback Blake Shapen. Blake, how you doing?
Doing good.
I want to start with this, Biggin. You came on the scene in a very large way, right? We're talking about the 2021 Big 12 title game, played your behind off. You earned the starting job in spring. You go into 2022, and it felt like you played pretty good football. You said about 2 games where you had 3 interceptions apiece. Outside of that, what else do you think you could have improved upon, if anything, in 2022?
I would say there's always something that I can improve on. Looking back on the tape, I think that, I can learn a lot more on the mental side of the game, Whereas right now, I think I'm where I'm at with my physical ability. I can throw it and I can run it, but I think the biggest thing for me in the offseason is seeing how I can improve with protections, seeing how I can improve with defenses, seeing what tendencies they might be doing. So I would say that's the biggest thing.
How helpful has Coach Grimes been in helping you identify those parts of what defenses are doing and you're able to spot them before they make a move?
He's done a great job. Just being able to learn from him, listen to him. He's been around a lot of great quarterbacks, so being able to take in any knowledge from him has been awesome. Little tendencies that he sees, being able to come off the field and say, hey, Blake, you see this, you see that. Being able to communicate with him has been big for me.
Is it helpful at all to have a head coach who has been so successful as a defense coordinator going, hey, this is what the defense is trying to do to you. This is how you answered the test or the question on that test.
Right. It's good having a defensive coordinator almost as your head coach because he does know exactly, what the other defense is trying to do to us. In team meetings, he'll let us know, like, hey, you might see this, you might see that. So being able just to listen to him also, he has a lot of knowledge of the game, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So being able to intake any knowledge from him has been big too.
We hadn't expected to see the kind of player that Richard Reese turned out to be, earned freshman All-America honors, came just short of 1,000-yard rushing season. And then you add a guy like Dominic Richardson to that tandem. What's it mean for you to have two guys like that can run the ball behind you?
It means everything. So, starting with Rich, having him come back for another season, watching what he did as a true freshman was pretty amazing. And having him come back with 1 year under his belt, it's going to be fun to watch him. And then adding a guy like Dom only just adds fuel to the fire. So Dom's been in college for a little while. He's experienced. He's been through college football. So being able to watch him grow within our offense, learn our offense, and being able to try to carry him along, get him ready for the season has been awesome. So can't wait to see those two go at it.
You lost a lot on that offensive line from last year. I believe there were 3 super seniors and at least 1 4-year starter. Getting to know those guys, getting to watch those guys gel together is a big part of what you do as a quarterback. How have you been able to help them in the transition from, a really veteran group into this group that you expect to be very talented but hasn't played a lot of football together?
Right. I think it starts with encouraging those guys. You got some younger guys, but you got some older guys too. We added 2, Clark Barrington and Campbell Barrington, both of those guys from BYU. So being able to add those 2 puzzles to the piece has been huge for us. But also doing like little things after workouts or whatever it is, we go out and we'll talk through protections, 5-man, 6-man, ways, we can get the back out and different things like that. So being able to talk through those and for them to understand what the calls are has been big. And we've been working a lot on that. So just carrying those guys along, encouraging those guys, and it's been great. So
I'm always curious about how players respond to Coach Aranda, who is a different cat. He moves to his own beat, and it's always real low-key, but he always gets his point across. What's it been like for you to be coached by a guy that I like to say is just a different college football coach? You're just not going to find another one like him.
Yeah, I think you said it best. You're not going to find another college coach like Coach Aranda. He's definitely different in the way that he moves and the way that, he coaches. And, I think that it's very relatable to the players. I think a lot of players on our team, mostly everybody on our team, respects him a lot for what he's done at other places and how much knowledge of the game he knows, but also how he moves and how his personality is. It's a lot different than a lot of coaches. But he lets us know when we got to get better and there's things that we need to get better at. He lets us know that. But at the same time, he cares about us off the field too. So it's pretty amazing to have a head coach like him.
Blake Shapen, thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show, and good luck this season, sir.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you for having me.
I'm pleased to be joined by Houston head coach Dana Holgorsen. Coach, how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. How about yourself?
I'm good, sir. Excited for the day. Excited for this year of Big 12 play. It's going to be unlike any that we had ever seen in the history of the Big 12, let alone the sport. How excited are you to get back in the Big 12 and to be back in the Big 12 with a new team, with Houston?
Oh, it's pretty exciting. A couple of things. I'm excited to be back. I've spent 17 years in this league, 7 of which as a head coach and 10 as an assistant. So I'm excited to be back. The University of Houston's excited to be here as well. There's a lot of history with the teams that are in the Big 12 and Houston, whether it's recently with, Central Florida and Cincinnati and BYU or almost 30 years ago with TCU, Texas, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech. There's just a lot of Baylor. There's a lot of familiarity with where we're at the University of Houston and the Big 12 in general.
A lot of Southwest Conference vibes going on right about now, Coach. And I kind of want to talk about those because y'all get Texas at Houston for the first time in 20 years. And I don't mind saying it. It feels like they've been avoiding the University of Houston for some time now. I'm excited about that game. I think fans at Houston are excited about that game. Are you excited about that game?
I'm not sure where it fits on our schedule. I think it's like week 8 or week 9. So I get excited about that like week 8 or week 9. There's a lot of other things that we need to do and be worried about. Just the history, the South Southwest Conference, you mentioned that. I saw Andre Ware out there, and, he's excited about being back and playing those games as well. But, back in the late 80s and early 90s, Houston was pretty good. And, whether it was football with Andre and David Klingler or basketball with Phi Slamma Jamma or track and field with Carl Lewis, there's a lot of good things happening at the University of Houston. And because of a lot of politics, Houston got left out, and I'm proud to be at a university that's climbed its way back in. Been doing wonderful things here for the last 15 years with great leadership. And now we're in that conversation, and it's time to put our big boy pants on and go play some ball.
Well, it climbed its way back in, and they won it. You mentioned Andre Ware, who won a Heisman without playing on television. You mentioned how bad Houston won it. I don't mind saying it. I'm from the University of Tulsa. I went to Tulsa down the road. They hung 100 on the University of Tulsa. Houston plays a little ball now. You've been playing a little ball the last couple of years here, and I wonder how many folks forget that you were 12-2 2 years ago, 8-5 last year, topped the American. It ain't like y'all are coming in here just to be another squad. It feels like from the jump, you got enough to go out there and challenge for a Big 12 championship. Am I wrong?
Well, we've had recent success over the last, 8 years or whatever. We've been in a New Year's Six bowl game, back in 2015. The team's coming in with Central Florida and Cincinnati. There's been, New Year's Six bowl games and been very competitive top 10 teams over the course of the last few years. So, yeah, I think we're ready. We've won 20 games, like you mentioned, over the last 2 years. Won back-to-back bowl games. That's only happened to a handful of teams over the last couple of years, and University of Houston's one of them. Plus, we've been ramping up for this for the last 2 years. Better than 75% of our roster has been recruited, knowing that they're going to be in the Big 12 and be able to play that Big 12 schedule. So I think all that helps and makes us competitive, and that's what I'm looking forward to, is just lining up and having the ability to be able to compete at the highest level every week.
You made a number of key additions. Former Oklahoma linebacker David Ugwoegbu is going to play some pass rush for you. You're talking about adding Latrell McCutcheon from USC, and you also added quarterback in Donovan Smith coming from Texas Tech. I understand you got a derby going on between he and Lucas Coley, but what do you need to see from one of those guys to try to step in for what was a really remarkable player in Clayton Tune?
Yeah, we've been pretty stable at that position for the last 4 years. Ironically enough, we were one of 2 teams last year that's had the same starting quarterback over the course of the entire season. So you better get more than one of them ready to play. Donovan comes in with 21 games experience in the Big 12, has played a lot of ball, is a very mature young man, is 6'5", 240, looks the part, coach's kid. And I think his best football is ahead of him. So I'd give him the nod just based on experience. But, proud of Lucas Coley and the way he's competing. So you got to get him ready to go as well. Hopefully we don't have to get to number 3. I got some inexperienced guys after that.
Well, Coach, I'm also interested in that offensive line, the guys that got to keep that guy upright. And one in particular, I wonder if it's just me because I keep looking around and I see Patrick Paul at 6'7", 315, and I understand the NFL's already spotted him, but I wonder how many folks are going to get a full dose going into 2023 in this league.
Well, I've got high hopes for Patrick. We were a pass-first, pass-heavy team last year, and his pass blocking grades are off the charts. He's just a massive human being. Texas Tech had a pretty good pass rusher last year, and Tyree Wilson, and Patrick, he's a top 5 pick or whatever he was, and Patrick blocked him all day long in pass protection. We're going to get, focus a little more on the run game a little bit, try to be a little bit more balanced, and need him to get his pads lower a little bit in the run game. And if we can do that, I think he'll go pretty early.
One more recruit that I really am paying a close attention to is Michael Harris-Pilot. I wonder, are we going to see a bunch of him this year? But it feels like that dude's got a lot of talent. It's just where are you going to play him and how are you going to use him?
We were kind of a one-hit wonder with Tank Dell last year. I mean, he had so many targets and was the featured guy. Our second, third, and fourth leading receiver are all back. We've added 3 transfers that I think are going to be able to play, and then we got a couple of freshmen that are extremely highly rated. 2 of the, him and Mikhail and Jonah Wilson are both 4-star guys that, we beat everybody in the country out on. That's what the Big 12 does for you. You can sell the schedule and sell the competition, and you might end up landing a few guys like that. That's a deep receiver room, and I'm looking forward to being able to coach all these guys in August and figure out who's going to get the PT.
My last question for you, Coach. A lot of folks watch what Texas Christian was able to do last year and rightly or wrongly believe that why not us then? Because we got as much as they got and we're not that far removed from a talent deficit. Do you believe that it's in the cards for Houston to be one of those teams that's competing for a college football playoff spot in the very near future?
Well, I think Houston's best years are ahead of them, no question. It's gonna take some time to the point to where we're gonna be on the same level playing field as everybody else, with facilities, with the amount of conference money coming our way. All that's gonna happen in due time. So we just try to be competitive each and every week. And our first one's against UTSA next year, and we need to be competitive with that. And then turn around and do it again the next week. We do play TCU week 3, which that's our inaugural Big 12 football game. And there'll be a lot of excitement around that. It was fun watching TCU last year. I've known Sonny Dykes for a long time, and he's resurrected his career, and the ball bounced their way. They have obviously really good players. I think they had 11, 12 guys drafted last year. But the ball bounced their way. They got hot. Momentum's a pretty valuable thing, and if you can capitalize on that and the ball bounces your way with good players, and you got a shot. So it's good to be in that conversation, and if we can put together some wins and get some momentum, then who knows what'll happen at the end of the year.
Well, I'm excited to see what is in store for Houston in 2023. Dana Holgorsen, thank you so much for joining us here on the #1 college football show, Coach.
Awesome. Appreciate it. Go Cougs.
And that's a wrap on our Big 12 Media Days interviews. My thanks as always to our lead producer, Tyler Wojak. Our senior producer is Catherine Donnelly. Our production assistant is Kiara Santana. Our social media maven is Javion Duncan. Our leads of screening are Torrin Westfall and Jack Coakley. I'm the host, RJ. We will see y'all next week. Deuces.